Well, Leticia, what I can tell you is we just found out that a law enforcement official has arrived on the scene. He now is getting briefed and then will be over here to talk to us and give us more information on what led up to this scene that you can see behind me here on northbound I-5, just south of the 99 connector. From what I can tell you from being out here, there is a heavy police presence. At one point, the police helicopter was circling overhead. You can see there's at least a half a dozen cars on the roadway. And from what I can tell you there, I can see a black screen there, and usually that is used to block off a fatality. And then further north of that, closer to that 99 connector, there's four vehicles actually, the silver car on the left shoulder, and then the pickup truck there, the red pickup truck in the middle, and then two cars off on the right hand shoulder. So at least four vehicles that look like they were involved in some sort of collision. Now, what we know about the incident so far, again, we are awaiting the arrival of an official, but a hit and run was reported in this area to CHP around 3:40 this morning. When officers arrived on this scene at 3:45, the report quickly changed to a fatal incident with reports of a man actually laying in one of the lanes. Now, a hard closure of the highway was called for at 4:15, and as you can see, the roadway remains closed at this time, and cars are being diverted off northbound I-5 at Arena Boulevard, and Caltrans signs have been activated, alerting motorists of the closures. They have the on-ramps also to northbound I-5 closed at Arena and Del Paso. And again, the law enforcement official who is going to be giving us a briefing has arrived. He is just getting his information, then will provide more information to us. But again, for right now, they're saying a deadly incident took place northbound I-5 just south of the 99 connector. And it does have the freeway shut down northbound I-5 at Arena Boulevard. Now, if you usually commute in this area on a Sunday morning, or if you had to get out to the airport for a flight, just give yourself some extra time this morning. You can use, get off on Arena there and then use El Centro, or even hook up with Del Paso and get over to Powerline and get to the airport that way. But again, no estimated time of reopening at this point, so do plan ahead for that. Deadly incident northbound I-5 just south of the 99 connector here in Sacramento County.
A disaster of this magnitude is not commonplace in our area.
It's been nearly 5 days since the quick-moving car fire jumped the Sacramento River in Shasta County and ripped through neighborhoods, causing evacuations of thousands of residents in the Redding area.
It was 9 o'clock his time.
And how did that conversation go? He was telling you that he was being evacuated?
He was telling me that all hell broke loose in Redding, the fire was coming up, and that he was evacuating. And that was kind of about it.
That was the last conversation Stephen Bigby had with his 88-year-old father, Richard, before he was forced to evacuate his home in the Mary Lake neighborhood in East Redding.
We called all the hospitals, local hospitals, even down in Repla, talked to Salvation Army, Chico even, down in Chico, yeah, Salvation Army.
Stephen and his family have been doing all they can to locate 88-year-old Richard, a retired auto shop teacher here in Redding. But Stephen and his family live more than 2,000 miles away in Houston, Texas. They and the Redding Police Department hope getting names of those still missing, like Richard, out to the public may help them get reunited.
I think he's one that we have a pretty good chance of locating if we can get the word out.
Including Mr. Bigby, the Redding Police Department is still actively trying to locate 4 residents reported missing from the car fire. One reported missing just this morning.
We're still looking for Richard Bigby of Redding, Bruce Brown of Old Shasta, Justin Jones of Redding, and Glenda Prusa of Redding.
And for the families of those still missing, expanding the search with the public's help, offering a continued hope.
I can't make what's happening go any faster. I guess we just have to spend the time and see what happens.
More positive news. Of the 4 remaining missing persons, 3 of their homes weren't touched by the car fire. And as for the missing persons hotline, officials say it will remain open until all residents are accounted for and evacuations are lifted.
They do really well. They work hard. They built this facility.
The Sacramento Sheriff's Wild Horse program at Rio Casumnas Correctional Center, 100% built and run by inmates serving time.
You know, coming out here, you get a peace of mind, you get a little sense of freedom. If I was still in the dorm or out there in the facility, I feel like I would be getting into a lot of trouble.
The Wild Horse program started 4 years ago and partners wild horses like Aramis, brought in by the Bureau of Land Management, with inmates like Curtis.
Coming out here, it was a big step for me, working all the time and then actually touching on the horses and riding them.
We have a lot of reentry services that help these folks that are in our custody actually become productive members of society once they get out.
Once horses have met certain requirements with their inmate trainers, they are put up for adoption, like the 11 being looked at today.
To get this horse at home and to find him a friend that he can bond with and be around that will care for him like I have is tremendous. I can't show more gratitude than I can right now.
2 horses here at the Sheriff's Wild Horse Adoption Program are being adopted by the National Park Service. And Babs here, she was adopted by the Sacramento Police Department in October.
You know, from being wild and, you know, truly running wild up in Northern California to now getting to be outside, you know, the Railroad Museum, getting pet by kids and stuff. It's a good life for her. She really likes it.
Horses brought into the program go from running wild to adoption ready in about 4 months. Inmates in the program go through 6 months of training before they meet their horses.
Yeah, I feel like they save us more than anything, you know, because it shows us a little sense of compassion and love, you know, that maybe some of us, I know of myself, haven't really got my whole life, so.
Kathy, Missing in California. It's an event meant to help families and friends affected by the disappearance of a loved one and give them a chance to reopen investigations and take advantage of resources and information that may not have been available earlier on.
It's been almost 2 years since my mom went missing. He drove to the Golden Gate Bridge and he left his car there and he disappeared. And we haven't heard from him since.
For families like the Smarts and the Webbers, the day their loved ones went missing is one they'll never forget.
It's like forever, like we're never going to find them. And that is the most lost feeling ever. So every little step that we can make and do makes a huge difference to us.
In a first-of-its-kind event, Sacramento area law enforcement partnered with several state and federal agencies to offer families of California missing persons a chance to bring new life to their loved ones' cases.
When you have a missing person who literally just vanishes, where do you go? Where do you start?
Missing in California offered families the chance to add information to existing missing case files or start a new file altogether. It also brought new resources and hope to families that may have been looking for answers for decades.
Obviously, when we had cases reported in the 60s and 70s and even the early 80s, we didn't have DNA profiling like we have now. We didn't have those national databases that we have now. We didn't necessarily have the resources to launch like we do now.
They said today that they're going to take more DNA from his family members and resubmit the case.
Taking advantage of resources like the National Missing Persons Database and the latest developments with DNA, organizers and families hope to bring answers and closure for those who have never lost hope in finding their missing loved ones.
These families, they still have hope. And so we may not be able to give them the answer they want, but we're hoping that we can give them an answer.
My mother prays every day that, you know, that he comes home to us any way, shape, or form, that we'd know that we have some closure about where he is.
Now, 26 families from all across California ended up taking advantage of this event. It was absolutely free for anyone to attend. You just had to come ready with any new information or pictures, medical records to add to the case file. They also encourage you to bring out family so their DNA could be tested and added to the case file as well.
Sounds like a pretty seamless process. And Tish, I know recent headlines have kind of raised questions about DNA and your privacy. So was there any reluctance as far as giving out those samples today?
You know, I asked organizers that, and they said because of confidentiality laws, when you give DNA to a missing persons case, it has to stay with that case and can only be used to try to find that person that is located on that case file. The scene here has changed dramatically in just the last half hour or so. The amount of smoke that the fire has been putting up has decreased significantly, and there is that hard road closure on China Hill Road, so this is as close as we've been able to get to the fire again. But just when we got here about 45 minutes ago, there was lots of different smoke plumes coming from that tree line there, and we've seen helicopters and even planes make drops. And just about 20 minutes ago, the street was lined with residents who were out here on on Quartz Road where we're at, trying to document the fire's movement with their cell phones and just keep up to date on how things were going. Again, we have seen several airplanes and helicopters make drops in the area, and so that is good news. We, from our vantage point, never saw any large dark smoke or flare-ups from the fire, but again, there is those hard road closures in place, and evacuation orders are still in place. And again, those are evacuation orders are for Bumper Hill Road, China Hill Road, and then Spice Lane and Marybell Lane. And on our way up here, there was just a line of cars waiting to possibly get back in whenever they do get a handle on this fire, with trailers for their horses, and residents just out there waiting for any information they could get. But again, from what it looks like, from what we've seen just in the 45 minutes that we've been here, things have gotten a lot better, and we haven't seen any large flare-ups from the bumper fire.